how do you view the Louisville job as a head coaching position, not overall, but like 2022, February 2022, what is the Louisville job to you?
I mean, you got to look down the road. If you're a head coach right now taking it and you're an established elite level head coach, you're not taking this job because really for the next couple of years, it's going to be a shit show, right? The number one rule for coaches right now is go somewhere where you know you have support, right? You want to obviously have an AD that's in your corner. Well, nobody has any idea right now if the athletic director is going to be there long-term or not. Go somewhere where the president is going to be in your corner. Well, they don't have anybody right now. So you're 0 for 2 right there. Then you throw in the NCAA stuff that is still ongoing, and you don't know whether you're going to get another year postseason ban or not. Then you throw in, Jeff, the fact that there is no talent on the roster. Now, that can be fixed quickly based on the transfer portal. It's a lot quicker to be able to go from being really shitty to good or really good to shitty quickly. But again, the transfer portal is a tricky process, as we've seen this year with several teams. I'll bring up like Texas and Texas Tech is one of those. Well, Texas got Chris Beard did the best job you could possibly do, or we thought through the portal, and they've been mediocre for the most part before the win against Kansas last night. Texas Tech did what we thought was a second-rate job in the portal, and now Texas Tech is a top 10 team in the country. So the portal, I guess what I'm saying, is a complete crapshoot. You can get better quickly, but ultimately this job, like I said, it's not a top 5, not a top 10 job today. It's not even a top 20 job today. You're taking this job with the hope that it can be that. It can be a top 5 job again in 3 years, and you have a chance to fight for national titles or at least Final Fours.
Yeah, but that's what we said about the job when Chris Mack took it back in 2018, that you're taking this knowing that there's going to be your 3 or 4 year window where you have to kind of deal with all of this NCAA.
But they had an AD, they had Vince,
who
was behind Chris Mack, right? You had talent in the program, at least decent talent, not overwhelming, but
what I'm saying is,
this is a rebuilding job now.
Yeah, what I'm saying is you had to deal all of that with all of that other stuff outside of basketball when Chris Mack got the job, but he had the support from the school and the athletic department. And so now you're doing all of that stuff without that support. You don't know who your boss is going to be long-term. Right. Would you think about any industry that you would want to go into? Are you going to do that without knowing who the boss, who the person you're going to be working for is long-term? I don't.
Not if I'm an established, not if I'm a really good coach. I'll do it if I'm like Steve Forbes, maybe. And I'm saying to myself, you know what? I'm at Wake. There's kind of a ceiling. I know Wake's been very good in the past, but like, you know, Kenny Payne, obviously, like I've said, if you call Kenny Payne right now and said, hey, Kenny, I know there's a foot still, there's ice on the ground, but you gotta get your boots on and get the hell, you got to walk from New York to Louisville. Like, Kenny, all right, let's go. Let's go.
I think that's the biggest point. I don't mean to cut you off, Jeff, but I think that's the biggest point is that the expectation for who they're going to get for this job is I do think that Louisville is still a top 10 job, big picture.
It is,
but you're not gonna hire somebody that is top 10 job worthy for a couple of years. And I think, honestly, it's the perfect time to give it to Kenny Payne and let him see what he can do. Let him see if he can make this thing work. Cause then you'll never have that. Like if it goes great, then awesome. You have a guy that has turned this program around. And if it's a complete dumpster fire, then you can say, well, give it a shot. Tried Kenny Payne. Now you're never going to have to hear about that ever again.
Well, and the thing that makes it such a fascinating job right now is, and you guys know, you've seen the practice facilities, you've seen the home arena. I mean, they've got top tier, as good as it gets in college basketball facilities. The marriage with the ACC hasn't been great. Louisville fans are a little restless about the ACC, but you're still in a prestigious league that, even though it's down right now, traditionally has so much clout behind it. Louisville's a national brand you can recruit across the country. So there's a lot of good things about it, but that stability just doesn't exist. And on top of all of that, you've got a fan base right now that I don't blame them. I mean, they're hurt. They're hurting. They're frustrated. You know, it's everything here, whether people admit it or not, is measured against Kentucky and back and forth. That's what rivalries do. And it just has created an environment where people think you're either for them or against them. And I mean, it's a tough place to walk into. And we mentioned Kenny Payne. Everyone's talking about how he is drumming up support. He's got a lot of powerful people in his corner already. All signs point to him being the head coach, even with the search firm being brought in. But someone like him can maybe unite the fan base.
Sugiyama could screw this up.
Yeah. He could. I mean, it's possible.
Absolutely. He's certainly capable of screwing this thing up. And I know Glenn, and I like Glenn, but if you look at his track record, it is not great. I mean, he hired Mark Godfrey to Cal State Northridge, so he's capable.
Well, but here's
I love Jeff. That's my favorite thing about you. Is like, yeah, I like him, but he might suck at his job. Right? He might not.
Yeah,
be good.
Yeah. I'll have a beer with him. I'm a big fan of Glenn, but man, if he hits 50%, that's doing really well. And listen, he's not alone. A lot of the search firms suck.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, this one to me is fairly easy. Either you go the Kenny Payne route, and it's going to be super intriguing if they do, Jeff, because the guy he's so well liked. Yeah, everybody loves Kenny Payne.
Love him.
Everybody does. It's hard not to. He's just such a good guy, right? And again, handles himself well, has so many really, really strong connections relationship wise in the community at Louisville, played there, was revered there, but also has great relationships with NBA players.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they have juice. They have juice. So I think that will help too. But man, I would be fascinated to see the Kenny Payne versus Cal war that would go on recruiting wise if they hire Kenny Payne, because, and again, Worldwide West doesn't really have much use anymore. He really doesn't. He hasn't for years. I mean, even when this story was written by somebody about, the most powerful man in college, it was complete bullshit. But he's got some juice. And obviously, with Calipari, Worldwide West has aligned himself for years, dating back to New Jersey days with Wagner and all that. And now the funniest part of all this is if they hire Kenny Payne, last I checked, DeJuan Wagner's kid's pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
Like the number one player in the country good.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks he's going to go to Kentucky. Like that's a given today. When Kenny Payne gets the job at Louisville, as long as they're eligible for the NCAA tournament, which I think they will be, when young, what's his first name?
DJ.
What's this Wagner's?
DJ Wagner.
DJ, I'm sorry. Thank you. DJ Wagner gets there. Does he go to Louisville? It's a realistic question. They could absolutely get the number one player in the country right off the bat from Kentucky at Louisville. How crazy would that be?
The state would go absolutely bonkers. I mean, that would be
momentum.
Turn the rivalry all the way up. My question would be, and you guys would know this better than I would. If you step away from the Kentucky brand and you go to an Adidas school, how much impact do you think that would have on Kenny's recruiting juice?
I mean, definitely every kid wants to go play at Nike. I had arguments with Texas Tech fans last week about this. They were like, Texas Tech's a better job than Texas. I'm like, 2 words for you, Kevin Durant. He is not going to play for an Under Armour school or an Adidas school. He was going to play for a Nike school. He also wasn't going to go to Lubbock, Texas, but that's besides the point. Yes, I think the Nike part weighs in. I obviously, listen, Louisville and Kansas have been hurt over the last few years, especially. They've always been hurt because Adidas hasn't had the players that Nike's had, but even more so over the last few years with the FBI investigation into Adidas. Nike players are steered towards Nike schools for the most part. Now, again, if DJ Wagner and his dad are like, hey, it's an 8-month stopgap to get to the NBA. We're going to sign with Nike anyway in a year. Who cares? Let's play for our boy, Kenny Payne. Let's help him out. I'm going to be the guy there. They're going to run the entire offense around me, where with Cal, you never know who else is coming in around him.
Right.
You can make that case.
Yeah, and I also think that on an individual level, you're going to be able to find kids that are willing to go from Nike to Adidas and from Adidas to Nike. And I mean, Zion Williamson played for Adidas for all the way coming up through the AAE ranks. And where did he end up? He ended up at Duke. Now, a lot of that might have had to do with the way that things kind of shook out with the FBI investigation and all of that kind of stuff. But again, it's an individual relation. Yeah,
that's Duke.
It's an individual relationship based business recruiting, and there's gonna if you're good enough, then you can probably work your way through some of those shoe company lines, so to speak.
Are you guys at all I guess concerned would be the word, if they hire Kenny Payne? And I first thing that I would say is, and I know this is kind of a cliche, but I would really be intrigued to know who is on his staff. I think he would really have to get a bona fide former head coach from somewhere to be on his staff. I think that
Chris Mack available.
He's in town. David Padgett's here too. Maybe you can
bring them all in.
Bring them all in. See what happens. That'd be explosive.
Dino's available.
Rick Pitino, come back. Associate head coach Rick Pitino,
special advisor to the head coach.
Yeah, there you go. But are you guys concerned at all that if Kenny Payne comes in and God forbid for Louisville fans it doesn't work out, maybe they make, like, in 4 years they make 2 tournaments, they miss the tournament the other years, maybe there's a postseason ban and things kind of just aren't going the way that people want them to go, is how far down the path is Louisville? Because this is a place that is used to, I mean, they had Denny Crum, they had Rick Pitino. They are used to being good a lot. And we're moving on now to 2000.
I'm not worried about that at all.
2017, they were a 2 seed in the tournament. They haven't been in the second weekend of the tournament in 7 years.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. There's too much money that supports the program. There's too big of a fan base there. There's too many people that care. They know that basketball is their flagship. That's what we have to catch, get back there. But I don't think that it's not, I don't see them being down forever, so to speak.
I would say this, Jeff, this better than anybody. Like, if you don't have talent, you don't stand a chance. And Kenny Payne, I think his biggest advantage is going to be, again, his relationships, his ability to get talented players in the program. Do that first, worry about the other shit after. Like, go get a former head coach to help you coach, whatever. Just go get players. Go get dudes. Last I checked, John Calipari's done that, and it's been pretty good. Now, again, they've only got 1 national title, but they're in the hunt most years. Other than last year, they're in the hunt. And I think if you told Louisville fans, hey, you could have this, you're going to win as many titles as Kentucky over the last 10 years, but you're going to be in the hunt every year, they would take that.
In a heartbeat, they would take that. Last thing then. Well, there's 2 things. I'm going to put you on the spot with one of them, but I'll wait for that one. When you talk about the Louisville job as a concept, something that I think is really underrated here, and you guys probably run into this with different places. I know Rob's close to UConn. They probably have a little bit of this. You got kind of the old camp, the camp of guys who kind of made the program what it is today in the 70s and 80s. And you've got some of the newer fans who really kind of came up with Russ Smith and Peyton Siva and those guys. That is a tough path to a tough needle to thread for a head coach to come in at a program like this and try to bring everybody together. What about Kenny Payne, do you think he can be that guy? Because it seems like that's a really big factor right now in Louisville, is being able to get everybody on the same page.
I do. I mean, I don't know Kenny like super close, because, again, my relationship with the Kentucky program was a little cold, I guess would be a good way to describe it over the years. But Kenny's been great with me, to be honest. Like, anytime I see Kenny on the road, I talk to him. He's just one of those dudes that is super likable. Like, I've never heard a bad word about Kenny Payne. So yes, I think he's smart enough to know I got to go out in the community. I got to talk to whatever I think you ask Kenny Payne to do, he would do from a booster perspective. I think the key is is the infrastructure there already? And I don't think it is really
Right.
for NIL.
Mhm.
Like, I think that's where they're behind a little bit from talking to some people in the industry, from some of the other top programs, whether it's Kentucky down the road, whether it's a Creighton, whether it's all the SEC schools that are killing it. You better, whoever you are, Kenny Payne, and I think he's smart enough to know the right people to figure out NIL, because you're going to need that in order to be able to fight those recruiting battles right now. You're not winning them against the elite level teams unless you've got a hook like you do to a DJ Wagner.